fraudulently or by mistake. That's probably as much as I can say.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
thank you, MP Blakey. Now we're going to go to the Conservatives and MP Albus for 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Parliamentary Budget Officer. I appreciate your presence, your team's work. Officer, did your office anticipate the COVID-19 pandemic?
The short answer is no.
Did your office anticipate the war in Ukraine?
Again, no.
And I don't blame you for that. I don't think the Department of Finance did either. But you've made a case here today that sometimes life comes at you fast, and we have to be prepared as a government and as a country for these unanticipated events. You've given some suggestions here on long-term sustainability for parliamentarians to have a better lens, old age security benefits, child benefits. How can the government report to Parliament better so that we at least can anticipate the expenses that we know we will have?
Well, that's first of all, I was worried when you asked me if I had anticipated that. I was worried you would blame me for that, but thankfully you didn't. In response to your question, it's not that difficult to provide these long-term expenditures, or at least an estimate of these long-term expenditures. We do that. We are a small office, so we provide, as part of our fiscal sustainability report, we incorporate longer-term trends and projections when it comes to old age security, child benefits, equalization payments, transfers to provinces. It's not super easy to do, but it's doable. In fact, it's a good practice recognized by the OECD and other international institutions that governments should provide that or do undertake that type of long-term projections to have an idea as to whether their policies are putting the country's finances on a sustainable or unsustainable medium and longer-term track. So we do that on an annual basis. There's no reason why the Department of Finance and the government could not do the same.
So I do hope government members are texting Mona Fortier at the Treasury Board right now asking for these changes. But I'd like to talk to you about your work in regards to the Department of Finance underestimating what you viewed as their debt servicing costs in the fiscal year 2027. I think you said it was by several $1 billion. Has that assessment changed since we've seen an uptick in interest rates?
Not to my knowledge. The department, at least to my knowledge, has not published an updated estimate of the debt servicing cost. And you're probably referring to our stochastic debt sustainability analysis, where we indicate that there's a significant higher risk, a risk that the debt servicing costs will be higher than expected by the government due to the increase in debt and also the expected increase in interest rates.
So the government that brought us essentially doubled the spending on our debt. They've essentially doubled our debt load. They're not anticipating future events. They're not reporting to Parliament what they know is already caked into the books. As you said, they should be able to report on these things. And they still have yet to tell us what kind of deals they've cooked up with the NDP when it comes to pharmacare or dental care or all these other things that may happen. So do you believe that the government needs to be more upfront on all of these things?
Well, I certainly think that there is room for improving transparency, especially when it comes to medium-term and longer-term fiscal forecasts. As I mentioned on a couple of occasions, the budget that was tabled in April lays out a fiscal track, but that fiscal track does not include significant measures that were promised during the last electoral campaign, notably pharmacare, as well as additional funding for mental health And there are also demands when it comes to increasing national defense spending to meet the NATO target of 2% of GDP. And there is tremendous pressure from provinces to significantly increase healthcare transfers. So all these pressures are there, and I think the government will probably have to either agree to some or deliver on some of these commitments, or be clear that some of these cannot be met.
Thank you, and thank you, MP Albus.